Hey, good evening, Garrison Stuttgart. My name is Colonel Jason Condry. I'm your Garrison Commander. And so thanks again for taking the time to join me tonight and for the many questions that submitted in advance. I'm looking forward to answering many of those. I also want to go ahead and thank in advance a lot of the professionals that are out there prepared to answer questions that you may ask and I don't get to. So I'll offer a quick update on many of the areas that have been the source of your questions, and then jump into some of the specific answers. And so first, COVID. We're close to 3 weeks since our last known positive case within the community. So that continues to be a positive trend that your efforts are helping to maintain. Our clinic has the ability to test and get results here. And we've been watching as both German federal and state of Baden-Württemberg requirements, rules for quarantine have been evolving, and some of them within the last 2 or 3 days. And so we've been quickly trying to adapt our processes to minimize the hardship on newcomers to the community and those that return from TDY. So our quarantine requirements and screening process are going to continue to evolve with the conditions. And right now the conditions seem to be pretty good. And so effective immediately, and honestly we've already been doing this for a few days, everyone that flies a commercial airline into Germany, new arrivals, TDY, whomever, regardless of where they came from, will go to the health clinic at Patch and you'll do 2 tests. The first test is first thing, immediately upon arrival, day 1. Day 2, if you arrive at an odd time or over a weekend, and confirm if they were infected upon arrival. And then again at day 5 or 6, we'll do a second test to confirm whether or not someone becomes infected while transit, because you're sitting next to somebody that has the virus, and it may take that many days for the virus to be present. And so we will reopen testing on the weekends at the clinic. So if you are one of those newcomers or coming back from TDY, Sunday at noon is when testing is available. And so that'll determine the day 1, day 2, day 5, day 6. And until you've received that first test result, the quarantine process is very rigid. You know, your sponsor will get you directly to wherever you're going to be staying, and you will remain there until you get your test results. Ideally, they come back almost, within the day. So, negative results. We're going to presume that healthy people arrive, they test, there's a negative result. That's going to hopefully be the majority of everything that we see. Those individuals, all individuals, will enter what we are going to characterize as a working quarantine. And that's where newcomers and their families, we want you to minimize contact as much as possible with the community, outside of your room, wherever you're staying. And so there's some things you can do, some things you need to do, whether it's walking a pet, going to get food, doing laundry, some of those critical in-processing tasks that you kind of have to do right out of the gate in order to do other things. And so those are included in that working quarantine. We'll also highlight a couple examples of things that we don't want you to do during working quarantine. Don't want you in the gyms, don't want you going to church. We don't want you to go in places that are high contact areas where there's the potential that if you are infected, you're spreading the virus within the community. Also, each person that gets a negative test will receive a COVID-19 physician's certification for quarantine exemption. Lots of words, but basically it is your document that you can show a hotel desk clerk, you can show anybody that you interact with that, hey, I am part of this new accepted class. And you must carry that for at least 14 days after you've done your initial test. So our public health emergency officer right now has been working with medical professionals across the installation. In the next day, finalize and publish that guidance, and we'll get that out to you. But the major elements of it, I just highlighted there. So the quarantine question kind of begs several other questions. Travel. And I know there's lots of people out there who's like, hey, can you please just simplify what travel is going to look like? So 4 pieces to the travel puzzle. And of course, some of them continue to change shapes, making it difficult. The first one is host nation guidance. And this week, the Federal Republic of Germany and the state of Baden-Württemberg have implemented a 14-day assessment and publishes a daily update to not only countries, but U.S. states. And they are highlighting a list of locations that they are determining are high risk based upon COVID statistics. The second piece is Department of Defense guidance. And so this generally uses an open or a green assessment of the origin, any place you may lay over or stop in transit, and then of course your destination. And so if you're going from green to green, no exceptions to policy are required, whether we're talking about official or unofficial travel. So the first two that I just laid out are the critical elements of that we've detailed in General Order 1 Charlie. But I want to highlight that units have additional measures. So even if you've got green to green, DoD guidance is good, host nation guidance says borders are open, unit leadership still authorize your leave, they authorize your pass. So again, I come back to go talk to your chain of command, have that conversation. So right now, in terms of what is green around Germany, all of the neighboring countries are green with the exception of Poland, Czech Republic, and Sweden. And so continue to keep the community updated as those things change. And that brings me to the last piece, probably the biggest shapeshifter of all, and that one is COVID, of course. And so the location assessments, they're condition based. Your travel plans may be approved when a location, a destination is green, where you're originating from is green. And then of course they may change without much notice. So what does that mean for leave or leisure travel? The U.S. Embassy has stated that service members and DoD civilians who are resident within the Schengen zone area, they have valid passports, may travel throughout the Schengen zone. Carrying passports, orders, proof of residence, those are going to be the things that minimize a lot of the issues and frustration. Again, conditions can and probably will change. Another question that comes up consistently is visiting family. And so when can family come and travel here, either for tourism purpose, to visit us, even to help with childcare? So the European Commission recommended that all non-essential travel to the Schengen zone be limited until the 30th of June. And Germany has implemented that recommendation. So there are exceptions, of course, for any of our inbound personnel, our PCS, our TDY, for official travel. And then there's a couple others, documented medical emergencies or humanitarian situations, but those are fairly rigorous standards to meet. And the last question is, I'm looking to take leave back to the States. What do I need to be prepared for there? So for travel to the States, the current CDC guidance for those coming from Europe is to enter a 14-day self-quarantine process. I don't have a timeline on when that may adjust. The next thing I want to talk about is virtual in and out processing. And so first of all, I want to acknowledge that there have been some impressive efforts to redesign a 2-week process that was in processing into a COVID-informed process, one where there is less need for person-to-person engagement, no need for people to sit in a classroom, shoulder to shoulder with other people and receive death by PowerPoint. So not only have we recreated the process with many of those elements that you can do before you even arrive here or from your hotel room late at night, but we've cut the process down by over 30 hours. So if you're sponsoring a newcomer, what your newcomer is going to be experiencing is vastly different than what you experience. So check it out. Be prepared to answer some questions. If you are coming to join this community or you're on your way out, reach out and let us know as far in advance as possible. Go to the app, hit the PCS button, and at the very top, you can begin your virtual in and out processing. We want to start those processes as early as possible. Last thing I want to talk about is the Equality for All community event. It's pinned to the very top of our community Facebook page. And I realize that the information we've given, it requires a little bit more explanation. So you've heard me talk about this before, and over the last few weeks, we've watched the events at home that followed the tragic death of Mr. George Floyd with concern, sadness, frustration, and anger. There's absolutely no doubt that this has affected our community. It affects our families back home and continues to do so even to this day. So our senior leaders have recognized that the divisions and inequality that we're seeing play out, those things that divide us, erode the sacred trust that forms the bond within our services, within our organizations. We've got to begin conversations and do things about that. And so over the last 2 weeks, across the installation, commands have purposely engaged in conversations about issues of race and inequality. These respectful conversations have involved listening, learning, and fostering an environment of dignity and respect, and the values that, frankly, are fundamental to service to the nation. So our mission requires us to serve abroad in Germany, and we are guests and ambassadors for our nation and have a duty to remain apolitical and hold ourselves to a much higher standard than those we protect and serve. So to complement the efforts by units and organizations across the installation, the Garrison tomorrow evening is going to host an Equality for All event. It's going to be underneath our equal opportunity, equal employment opportunity, and our religious support programs. So the event will follow regulations, policies, and senior leader guidance on what we can do on our installations. I want to offer my gratitude to the units and private organizations for the incredible support during the planning and preparation for this event. So there's 3 elements to our event. So beginning at 6:30 at our 4 major installations and led by our equal opportunity and equal employment opportunity teams, there will be a 5K run walk. There'll be opening comments focused on issues of race, ethnicity, gender, religion, sexual orientation, followed by singing, music, and a begin. And at the same time, led by our chaplains, each of our chapels will open for a vigil. You'll come into the chapel, fill out a prayer form if you desire. You can light a candle of remembrance up at the front of the chapel, and then move to the back of the chapel to a prayer board and post the names of those that you would like remembered in prayer. The third event, we're calling a moment of unity. So this event is led by you, whether alone, with your family, with a friend, wherever you are. Understand that many may not be able to come on post to do the 5K run or walk, may not be able to come into one of our chapels. But this is a deliberate pause and a moment of reflection. And so if you choose to do this at 8:46 p.m., know that you will be doing it with countless members of our community. So keeping in mind our responsibilities and status as guests, we must hold ourselves to the highest standards of conduct. We must abide by the regulations, policies, and guidelines laid out for these EEO and EEO and chapel events. Can't let it impact our mission, nor endanger the discipline or morale of the units on the installation. This event is deliberately planned after duty hours so that your family can be there in a manner consistent with EO, EEO, and our religious support programs, and at locations where the entire community can participate. I'm asking that your conduct and choice of clothing not contradict your obligation to remain apolitical or be considered divisive in any way. That's not what this event is about. We will clearly be in view of everyone and in our places of worship. Additionally, and yet another complication in the era of COVID, for this event we must abide by host nation and our own guidelines to ensure that doing this event does not create the opportunity for COVID to resurge within our community. So at 6 p.m. at each of the track locations and at the community center on Robinson Barracks, we will begin a check-in. And so there's a COVID event form. Again, if you go to Facebook, go to the link there, you'll be able to download that form in advance. You got to download it, complete it, or we'll have some available. You can do it when you arrive. This form, wearing a mask, hand washing, and keeping your distance are requirements for this event. So I'm confident that this event will further the constructive and meaningful dialogue about issues of race, ethnicity, color, gender, religion, sexual orientation, equality for all in a way that is reflective of the core values that serve as the foundation of our service and our role as ambassadors of the United States while we're here in Germany. So now I'll move to some of the other questions that you've put forward. So first one is related to auto skills and specifically the self-serve function. So Chad asks, when will the Auto Hobby Center open the self-service bays? Been closed for over a year. Chad, I know this has been a source of frustration for many in the community, and I have told you many times that we are almost there. And unfortunately, we're still almost there, but not quite. We've got a little bit of hiring to do, and we've got one more pipe that has to be installed in order to open those up. So I'm hopeful that here in the next couple weeks we can make that possible. But I have to owe you a due out on the Auto Skills Center. The next one is on Child and Youth Services, and two questions specifically on CDCs. So this one is from Susanna. CDC is not able to accommodate the kids of essential employees. How are we expected to work full-time if the child care situation has no solution yet? I may miss out on a promotion because I'm not available to work full-time. My husband and I have been rotating days, but he's being asked to come back full-time as well. What options do we have? And then Candace asked, and this was linked to German schools returning, heard that the German schools will move back to full capacity starting 1 July. Is there a plan to reopen CDC for everyone? As I mentioned earlier, it's impossible for both parents to keep up full-time work without daycare. So Susanna and Candace, I know that our dramatically reduced capacity at our CDCs is a problem. We have some fairly directive precautions that we must have in place. And as we've moved to HPCon Bravo, I think we will find an opportunity to expand how many slots we're able to offer. I don't think that'll happen until after the 4th of July weekend. And so we're working closely with mission partners and acknowledge that there are some priorities, directed by regulation and policy that we need to bear in consideration as well. And so I understand the impacts on you, your working spouse, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to address the need sooner rather than later. This one's similarly related from Megan Ann, and it's, can we open the hub for teens? They need an outlet, somewhere to go, something to do. And so, Megan, one of the key pieces of our requirements is almost a doubling of the staff needed to provide care for our kids in our CDCs. And so our youth centers and team sports, for that matter, are kind of the last things that we anticipate opening our doors, because I want to make sure that we provide care for as many of our kids that are in CDCs and school-age centers. So that's going to happen first, and we'll continue to try and hire to fill some of the gaps that may make that possible sooner. So if you're interested in being a caregiver, we're interested in having you. The next question is about COVID, and specifically antibody testing. So May asks, will antibody tests be made available to our community? So the answer, still don't have a timeline on when we here in Germany will have the tools to do antibody testing. There are some locations in the local economy, you have to pay for them, but right now we're not sending anyone to those stations, and TRICARE is not funding the expense for the test itself. So that may be a question I'm able to answer better in the next couple of weeks, but right now I don't have a good solution. So, question on schools, and this one's from Susan. Is there any word yet on schools opening back up on 24 August? So, Susan, schools will reopen on the 24th of August. That's grades 1 through 12. I think the kindergartners will open up about a week later on the 30th. So I know that the DODEA leadership at large are taking installation by installation, location by location look at facilities, doing an assessment, and they're making sure that the health of the students, families, teachers, staff, that's got to come first. And so, as you look at it, there's three options. A full return to classes, digital learning, as we ended this year with, and a combination of the two. And until that assessment is complete, I don't know what it's going to look like. They're hopeful that by late July, they're able to have those assessments in and be able to tell each individual community what school is going to look like. So there's a plan. They're in the process of doing that assessment, and I think it'll be another month or more before we have the answer as to what school is going to look like next fall. And again, there's the potential for COVID to have yet another vote on what that's going to look like. So more to follow on that one. I have a question from Kyla on the Exceptional Family Member Program. And so her question is, why are people with EFMPs, Exceptional Family Member, being turned away from PCSing here? Most of the services from the soldiers I've seen are being denied or offered here. So there's three different pieces of the process for EFMP. There's the ACS element, there's the medical element, and then of course the Human Resources Command, or the personnel aspect of it. So when a service member has an exceptional family member and they're looking to go to a location, every one of those decisions is made on a case-by-case basis with lots of contributing factors. And so, whether that exceptional family member is enrolled because of an educational need or a medical need, their condition may require engagement with both the school and the medical service providers. And so as you look at those, we got to make sure that we have the right providers within schools. We have to make sure there's the right providers within the community. And in some cases, there aren't enough providers to meet the need of those members that are coming in, and that can generate a denial as a result of EFMP. So I know that's frustrating and creates challenges for a lot of families and some uncertainty as they're trying to get here. A couple questions on fitness centers. So first of all, Jen asks, are face shields acceptable to wear while at the gym? If not, can it be considered wear instead of the cloth mask while working out? So Jen, great question. I called our public health emergency officer before coming on this live stream and said, is there a reason why we can't allow face shields in lieu of the face mask? So effective now, face shields are approved as an alternative to wearing the cloth mask. That may create a little bit of space between you and huffing and puffing and keep something cloth off your face that gets sweaty. So Matthew asks, also on fitness centers, I know we're following host nation requirements, but any predictions on when gym locker rooms and showers will reopen? And a follow-on question, the track and field will soon close for weeks for sprinkler repair. What are the estimated dates? So, we continue to ask, the social ministry, the Ministry of Health, when they're going to lift the restrictions on lockers, showers, and saunas, and I don't have a good answer on when that's going to change. With respect to the repairs on Husky Field, we started planning that to happen early in the spring. We had the work plan back in November, and of course COVID changed when they were going to start, and it's been delayed. So it will start on the 22nd of June, and is planned to go until the 16th. I'm hoping that they don't find any additional issues that may cause delays and an extension of that timeline. One more question on the gym from Michael. Can the Garrison rethink the gym situation? It appears that no logical thought was taken as to which machines were roped off. Additionally, Host Nation is not doing this. I understand the mask requirement, even though Host Nation isn't doing that either for gyms. Let's use common sense on the machines, as many muscle groups are unable to be utilized. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way. So, Michael, a couple pieces to your question here. So, our process for the gyms was very deliberate. Not only did we apply the Host Nation guidance, but had Public Health Command come in and take a look at our facilities. If there is a specific machine that is roped off that you want access to, I'd ask you to talk to the gym staff. In most cases, we tried to eliminate redundancy and at the same time create the necessary space between equipment. It may be possible that if a specific piece of equipment that you need open, we can relocate and still maintain the same spaces and distance between equipment that is needed. With respect to masks and whether or not host nation gyms are doing it, I don't doubt that businesses are telling their gym goers that they don't have to. If the Ministry of Health comes in or the Polizei come in, that business will be issued a fine. If we don't do that in our gyms, then we're in violation of a national bilateral agreement and in violation of our obligations as guests within the host nation. And so the stakes are a little bit different when it comes to ensuring that we maintain our standards when it comes to the COVID mitigation. So this one is related to Garrison COVID related policies, and specifically Barbara Ann is asking our friends and relatives, those that we've approved for access to the installation, able to go in the commissary and PX if they have gone in the past and adhered to all screening. I want to make sure I'm crystal clear before they go with me and they are turned away. A similar question from James. Hey, I'm a DOD ID card holder. My daughter who lives with me doesn't have an ID. Is she allowed in the PX, escorted by myself or her mother? So, Barbara Ann, if you don't have a DOD ID card, you don't have access to the PX or commissary. In some cases, that's a policy by AAFES leadership or DECA leadership. In other instances, it's a reflection of our facilities have a capacity requirement. And so want to make sure that the people that we have inside of them are ones that should have access to them. For James, if you're a DOD ID card holder and your child is going with you or your spouse into the PX, no concerns at all from my perspective. Here's a question from Robin. Since the removal of the staff at the patch mailroom that reminded everyone to wash hands and wear a mask, many are going in the back doors without hand washing. There's counted many people doing that, and then of course waiting in the package line. Can the exterior door handles be removed on those doors, effectively making them exit only? Maybe forcing those entering mailroom through the doors with the hand washing station to get them to follow the rules. So Robin will add some additional signage. You know, it frustrates me to think that I still have to make people wash their hands and go in the single entry exit that we've designed. So I'm not going to take door handles off our doors, but we'll do our best to put some additional signage up. The expectation, if you're going into one of our community facilities, is that you have a mask on, you have clean hands. Either you use the hand washing station, or at this point we've got plenty of hand sanitizer out there. You carry it in your pocket just as I do. And before you go in, do it right there next to the entrance. So this question is from Greg, and it's kind of the host nation COVID development entry requirements. So Greg asks, will the Garrison incorporate Germany's new Corona warning app into its fourth health protection measures? So right now, Greg, I've seen the reporting on it. I haven't downloaded the app. I recognize that it utilizes Bluetooth, but right now we don't have any plans to utilize that app to help us, maintain an understanding of who we might have come in contact with. By all means, if you as a member of the community want to do that, especially as you're out and about in Stuttgart, then that may be a way you find out about the potential tracing of contacts and positive cases within the community. So I had several questions here about family travel. So Mia, Stacy, and Heidi. Hopefully my answer about family travel and the timeline of 30 June limiting non-essential, non-official travel answers all of those questions. I'm hopeful that changes soon, and as soon as it does, we'll be sure to let the community know. So I have a question on housing from Darcy. So after we contact housing, when should we expect a response? So Darcy, typically everyone gets a response within 24 hours, whether it's phone call or an return email message. So if you haven't received anything, heard anything back, ask that you use the Garrison Assistance Team or try one more time. I recognize that sometimes we don't meet that self-imposed 24-hour standards, and we want to hear from you and talk to you if you are inbound to the community to begin the conversation on housing. ID card age change. So I've got two questions here, one from Mary and one from Melissa, generally the same question. So this one is Mary. If they aren't letting kids get an ID card at 10, how are they supposed to take the duty bus or go to the shopette? Will this be a new rule that you have to be 14 to be able to ride the bus, go to the PX, commissary, and shopette? Will current ID holders that are ages 10 to 13 not be able to ride the bus until they are 14? So the short answer is the Department of Defense issued this temporary policy to avoid unnecessary traffic in ID card offices and thus mitigating a lot of the COVID-19 exposure risk. So, however, the Garrison ID card office is going to continue to issue ID cards to children once they hit the age of 10. So I know, Melissa, you have kids that are counting days, and so make an appointment. And if an appointment's not possible, call, see if we can do a walk-in. We want to find a way to get our kids. I know how excited they are about getting their ID card at 10. So the passport office, continue to have questions about the passport office. So when will they be open for renewals? We've opened the borders. State Department has begun processing these, but we can't get into the queue unless we make an appointment at the office. So we're doing the final, implementing the final mitigation measures within our passport office to be able to bring people back in. And so reach out, call, and see what we can do now. The priority has been for those people that needed official passports, but you are correct. The Department of State has increased their ability their capacity to process passports. And so we want to very quickly get those applications in and allow those renewals to happen so that people can continue to travel and don't have to worry about an expired passport. Okay, and I've got one more question that came in advance of the live stream, and it's on voting assistance, and this is from Laura. I have several questions for the installation voting assistance office, but have not been able to reach anyone. I believe that there are deadlines coming up regarding requesting absentee ballots, and I'm trying to get the correct info. My home state has other local elections coming up as well, so thank you for your guidance. So, Laura, right now, if you'll go to www.fvap.gov, in the middle of that menu, there's an absentee ballot request button. Push that button, follow the prompts. It'll tell you exactly how to apply for, receive, and resubmit your absentee ballot. And so also there's a phone number, DSN 314-596-2865. Call and the commercial number is 49. Well, obviously that's the country code. 9641-70-596-2865. So we'll have that information up. We'll put a video up, because I know the season is upon us, and in many cases early voting has begun. So we want to make sure that our community is able to vote. So what additional questions have come in?
Well, sir, we covered a lot of ground, everything from auto skills, CDCs, antibody testing, schools, fitness centers. I just want to remind anyone who didn't get to hear those answers that as soon as we finish here, you'll be able to go back and see those answers from the beginning. We have a few questions, particularly we can start with travel since we sort of let off there as well. You mentioned quarantine requirements for new arrivals and people coming on TDY. Charlene wants to know if this includes college students coming back from the States.
Charlene, it does include college students coming back. So when that college student comes back, first place is to the clinic. Let's get that negative test. Let's get that document in hand that says negative test. And then that 14-day working quarantine where minimizing contact as much as possible is still going to be necessary. So first test day 1, second test day 5, and we've confirmed that didn't arrive with the virus and didn't get it while traveling. And so yes, that's for returning college students. That's for service members, civilians, family members, anybody that's coming in. And I'll go back to the quarantine process. The service members, I can and those that are going to be working for the U.S. government here, we're requiring them to do this test. I obviously can't make family members or children do that, but if they don't get the test, then the exemption from quarantine doesn't apply to them, so they will still have to execute a full quarantine process, 14 days. What else?
Just sticking one more question in on travel. What about traveling to an EU country that's green but not in Schengen, for example, Croatia? Are there restrictions on going to any country that's green?
So, again, looking at host nation, looking at DoD, Croatia as an example is green on, at least on the DoD side. You'd have to go and check the status on the host nation side. Because the last thing we want is for you to arrive and be turned around at the port of entry, or attempt to return and not be allowed to return based upon some condition that the host nation has changed. And so we will publish the links to the Robert Koch website where that list of high risk areas is going to be, is updated each and every day, so you can understand what that is. Okay, so 2 locations, host nation guidance, DoD guidance. The next piece is make sure there's not a unit policy that would prevent you from traveling to Croatia, as an example.
Sir, we'll also be able to post those links to those documents on the StuttgartCitizen.com.
Yep, StuttgartCitizen.com. Thanks, Barty.
Sure. A few questions about the Patch Dog Park and its recent closure.
Yeah.
If there's a reason for that closure, and is there also a plan to give dogs a new area to play and run if that's going to be a long term?
Yeah. So last town hall that question came up, and I've been on Patch for almost a year and didn't know there was a dog park. So I did find out that it's closed, and it's probably our largest dog park. So I'm going to find out why we locked the gates. My guess is they will very soon be open. I don't see a reason why we need to close it. At some point, we will build a child development center out there, but that's not going to affect what we're doing today, tomorrow, or the next year. So I hope to have those gates open. Again, we'll put an update out and make sure we know if there's a reason why we have it closed. There may be an environmental consideration that I'm just not tracking. So hoping that the gates will be open soon and people can use the dog park.
All right, sir. Well, we did cover a lot of ground tonight, and we're heading toward the end of our time together. I just wanted to offer you an opportunity to have share some closing remarks.
Sure. So, first of all, I appreciate the great questions. And I know I put some comments up front that attempted to answer a lot of those. And again, I want to thank a lot of people out there that helped either answer because they work for that service, or work for work for the schools, or our medical provider. I know a lot of those. We have a lot of expertise resident in our community that dial into these. But I want to thank my team as well that continue to post those updates. And a lot of the things I said tonight, we're going to put the text out there so that you can see some of the specific things on travel. And so, and I guess I'll close, as many of you may expect me to. Things haven't changed. Every day is COVID day until it's not. I'm hopeful that you remain vigilant, and I want everybody to stay healthy. Thanks, and have a great evening.